Okay, James. We've had the news this morning that Paul Scholes has retired from football at Manchester United. What's your reaction to the news?
Well, I can't say I'm surprised. I think there was a growing feeling inside Old Trafford that this was going to be his final season. Usually he signs a new contract probably around the January time, so the fact that he hadn't signed a new 12-month deal did lead us to believe that he was probably going to call time on his career. Even still, I think there's great disappointment. He's one of the most popular players at Old Trafford among fans. He's a genuinely world-class player, but it has to be said that as the season has progressed, his involvement has become less and less. Of course, he started on the bench for the Champions League final, and increasingly he was being left out of the side for the biggest games. He's a very proud man, and I think that unless he felt that he could still perform at the very highest level, then he didn't want to carry on. He didn't want to fade away, let's say.
Mm-hmm. Okay, where do you think he ranks, firstly among the United greats and then among sort of world greats in terms of his play?
Well, he's been an integral part of United during the most successful spell in the club's history. So for that alone, you'd have to say that he's among the greatest players ever to play for the club. He won 10 titles, 2 Champions Leagues. He's been a mainstay of the team for around 15 years. He's been a fantastic player, and he's right up there with Brian Robson, with Roy Keane of the modern day greats at United. On the wider scale, I suppose you would have to say exactly the same, because you would put Brian Robson and Roy Keane among the best midfielders to have played in Europe for over the last 20, 30 years. And again, Paul Scholes is right up there with them. I think when you talk to a lot of foreign players, they seem to appreciate him almost more than players in this country, perhaps. I remember reading an interview with Gudjovic once, at a time when he was playing alongside Zinedine Zidane at Juventus, and he said that in his mind, Paul Scholes was the best player in the world, even ahead of Zinedine Zidane. So for someone like him to say that says everything about what a good player he was.
Okay, his career at United was obviously fantastic. England, perhaps there was the odd question mark. What's your view on his international career?
Internationally, I think he was just unfortunate to be around at a time when there were so many great central midfielders. It seemed because he was such an unselfish player and such a quality player that he could play in any position, he seemed to get shunted out of the way of his preferred role to accommodate other players. And I think that was the big shame about his international career. I mean, really, you should play other players around Paul Scholes. That's how good he was. Any other country would have done that. But I think it was particularly under Sven-Göran Eriksson. He started being pushed out to the left, and he didn't like that at all, and that's pretty much why he called time in his international career. But at one point, at the height of Michael Owen's career, this was under Kevin Keegan, Scholes had a better strike rate than him, which says everything about him. And it also says everything about him that pretty much ever since Sven-Göran Eriksson, every England manager has tried to get him to go back and to retire from international football. Even Capello, last summer, ahead of the World Cup, he wanted him in his side to take to South Africa.
Sure, and just finally looking back at United now, who do you think should or could replace him in the United midfield?
Well, they've got to find someone who's absolutely world-class, and it's as simple as that. There probably isn't anyone at the club who will be able to take his place. I would imagine they're going to have to look outside. Wesley Sneijder is a name that continues to be linked with United. Luka Modric is one who's been linked more and more as the weeks go by. It's going to take that sort of player. I would think someone like Wesley Sneijder is the ideal candidate. Whether United will pump up the money to sign him is another thing entirely. Modric might be a cheaper option.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much.